Hello everybody and welcome back to the snooker action. This time it's the last 16 and it's the world champion up against the world championship semi-finalist Jiahui against Zhao Xintong. The pair of them have only met each other only once in their career. That was 5 years ago at the Northern Ireland Open, where the world champion managed to prevail there over the 2023 semi-finalist Jiahui. Very much looking forward to see the way this match is going to go, and well, as I say, the winner is going to either play Mark Selby or Anthony McGill for a potential spot in the semi-final. So it's all looking a lot nicer there for the world champion that has been having a little bit of a top form recently, but managed to rediscover his brilliant playing style, as he has demonstrated at the World Championship. A little bit of a higher frame matches here, beating Li Beifan yesterday and managing to overcome over some of the difficulty matches as well. I mean, Jiahui doesn't really need too much of an introduction. Managed to whitewash Guy Wilson yesterday after beating Wan Yuhen there by the scoreline of 6 frames to 1 and 6 frames to 0 respectively there. And if you talk about Zhao Xintong, as I say, managed to win a dramatic decider against Li Beifan. Managed to beat Fang Jinyu there, another ranking event winner, and Oliver Brown, of course, in the opening round. So it's all looking good for the pair of them, and let's see who's going to come out on top here and book themselves into the quarterfinal spot as Zhao Xintong makes his way on towards table number 1. We've got some other matches alongside, of course. We've got table number 2 is going to feature Watchalong and Wu Yize playing for a potential spot in the quarterfinal, as I say, to meet either Jack Lazowski or Barry Hawkins. The pair of them are also featuring next to us. So very much looking forward to see the way these matches are going to go. And the fourth one that we're actually going to have is, of course, going to be the match of Mark Selby against Anthony McGill. So the future winner of that pair will play either Jiahui or Zhao Xintong respectively. So we're ready to get started here. And it is going to be Zhao Xintong to get us underway. So as I say, I think it's going to be a match that is certainly going to be attacking. The reason why the match was chosen for the broadcast was pretty much to do with the fact that I haven't really seen too much of Zhao this season, and therefore you just think that he doesn't get enough recognition there as the world champion. So let's see the way this match is going to go there. Certainly would expect both players to be quite attacking there, and Jiahui straight away there, going for the red, in towards the left corner, missing that one, and Zhao Xintong will have the chance to try and pot the red in towards the left corner. As let's get the poll started. Who do you think is going to win this match? I certainly will go for Zhao Xintong. I think it's a bit of a boring one, but I still think that, you know, he managed to rediscover some sort of his form when he was playing at the higher stages of the matches here. So let's see if he's going to be able to continue that and get himself started here with the red in towards the left corner. And just about gets that one in, clearly trying to decelerate the cue ball and produce an angle on it so that it will drop perfectly onto the top part of the blue. Now just has a little look to see what he's got available there to his neck. The position is still very much bunched up there at this stage, so has to try and drive the cue ball in towards the main pack of reds, and has to make some adjustments to the position as soon as possible. But I still think he's got 3 reds now available to him, 2 in towards the right corner, and one of them in towards the left corner as well. So you play those with the pink or blue, with the black being out of the game. It is some of those points, and then you try and develop even more reds to your name, as he manages to get the first one in towards the corner. Lands the wrong side of the blue though, so may have to take the pink and try and send the cue ball in towards the main pack of reds here. Especially if he decides to play it with some piece of power now. And has gone for an extension, which made the pot a bit more difficult. And he's missed it, so an early chance comes and goes there for the world champion. And it has to be his compatriot that will return to the table. As I say, it was always going to be difficult there for him to produce a significant break out of that position, but still would have thought it was going to be a break of a higher value than just 7 points scored. And Jiahui has got a nice little angle now. If he gets the lot of power on the cue ball, he can try and free up the black here but has to guarantee himself next colour there, of course. You'll be more aware of the fact that the pink has gone in towards the left middle pocket. So that's going to be a chance there for him. Let's see the Fearless versus the Cyclone. Well, it certainly is going to be the Cyclone versus the Fearless. I just think if you got the two players that basically got themselves into, one of them into a World Championship semi-final and one of them into the World Championship title, the first of his country in the history of snooker sport. And in the end, Jiahui decided to go for the green there in surprise for the cameraman, who's focusing on the blue. And in the end, it's a decent shot there, but he run himself just as close towards the right-hand cushion as it was possible. Therefore, he's going to be compromised on the next shot. And has to try to avoiding action there, not to cannon again in towards the black, which is now playable into both left and right corner. And we'll very much want to keep it that way, at least for the time being. As if he wants to just roll this one and try and find the cue ball way past the black. And I mean, he's played the black absolutely perfectly, but he's actually potted it with the red. So not quite going to work that way for you. Even though he has potted the black after potting the red, of course, he happened in the same shot. So therefore, it's going to be a foul of 7 points to his opponent. But ultimately, don't think he's given the position away, which was going to be the more important of the two things here. And might actually find Zhao Xintong snookered here. The referee just having a look to see if the black is going to go back on his spot there. And a couple of early mistakes there from the two players. Probably something that you would have expected with the way, the playing style is. You just have to take the time to try and settle into the match. And whoever's managed to do that first is going to be having a little bit of advantage there to their name. And I think Zhao is just asking to see if he can see the full ball there with the referee. And I think she confirms that he is able to see the full ball. So therefore, he can't afford to go for a 3-miss rule. And right now, okay, so potentially, I mean, with the way he's aiming towards the left-hand side of the table, potentially the referee has called a free ball there to his name. So let's see what's going to happen here. If he gets this pink in towards the middle, he certainly will. It's a nice little shot there for him. As right now, he's going to try and get himself lined up on this blue to try and play it in towards the right middle. And the referee once again there just has to see whether the pink can go back on his spot or he'll have to go underneath the entirety of the reds. And it seems like the fact of it still being on top of the reds is not really possible in those circumstances. And it probably won't benefit Zhao Xintong too much. Because if he gets a nice little contact on the blue ball, you'll want to accelerate the cue ball in towards the reds there, not catch the pink on the way in. So, referee Liu Ying just trying to get the pink into the perfect position there. So, has to take one of the reds out of there and try and get it back into its position in a couple of moments' time. So it has to be very much precise in terms of trying to restore the pink as close to the spine of the entirety of the reds as possible. And has to do it very, very carefully here, of course, with there being pretty much no gap to fit the red in. But she manages to do it, so good job out there. And we get back to the break opportunity now for Zhao Xintong. Gets himself on this blue now to go 12 points clear. As he's already, it's going to be 17 points after this shot. And then once again they're going to be struggling a touch to try and get himself onto the next red here. The referee still double checking that. He's going to be happy with the pink position. And in the end, it doesn't seem to be that way. So the delay will continue for just a bit longer. But shouldn't take too much time here. It's just a bit of a work to be done. Getting the pink as far away as possible in towards the reds. Just has to make sure that it's going to be fitting perfectly and as close towards the pink spot as it's actually possible there. So seems to be happy with that. And then back to Jiahui go. We've also got a nice little stat here in terms of the long-term matches. He was actually brilliant in the UK Championship last year. until he sort of met Sean Murphy and lost out to him in the decider. Once again playing best of 11 there, and what a lovely shot he's played. Once again getting a nice low contact on the reds. In the end, it's going to be enough there for him after 2 cushion shot off the cue ball. He's going to get himself at least 2 of those reds available, both of them in towards the left corner pocket. Live also on the other table, Chomp versus Vuiza. Certainly, and as I say, it was always going to be a debate of which match to actually do there. But I think featuring the world champion and, the world championship semi-finalists, I just think this match has got a bit more excitement to it. And in the end, we'll be able to see the way Zhao Xintong can potentially get himself into the first quarterfinal of the season. If you count the Shanghai Masters, you could probably count that as the second one. But with it being not a ranking event in official standings, you probably have to say that it's going to be his first one. So just have a look to see if he's going to be able to get through to this red in towards the right corner, which is going to be a nice little boost here for him. So play with a little bit of the action on the cue ball and get himself lined up on this black in towards the left corner. So now goes 23 points clear and still having a couple of more reds to his name. It's going to be a nice little benefit in him trying to go for an attempt to close off the frame in the second visit to the table after an unfortunate mistake from Jiahui, you could argue, but still I think he had to make sure that the cue ball was going to be nowhere near the black, especially in the way that he was going to send it towards the left corner. Therefore, potting it and of course giving a foul and a free ball at that time to his opponent, which the referee has called after a request from Zhao Xintong. Now 42 points is going to be his points tally here. So 38 points is the gap and 28 points is currently scored on the break here. So as he rolls the red in towards the right corner once again here, goes 39 points clear and still 91 on the table to be fair. So he's going to have a little bit of work to do until he can get himself into the free zone and a comfortable zone here. So just having a look to see if he can get through to the bunch of reds. He's going to try and do it with one cushion escape, you would think, from their right hand cushion off the blue, trying to send it with all the power in the world. And all the action is going to be on the cue ball now, of course. And he's gone for a nice little 2 cushion escape, but once again there, just like it was on the previous effort where he managed to clip the reds, this time around it's going to be no contact at all, and the break of 34 points, which still was quite a nice little execution there from the position that he had to his name. He's looking to come to an end now, with the referee just having a look to see if it's going to be able to get through to any of those reds, and in the end just go for a slight edge off one of them. Maybe try and swerve around the blue slightly and place it nicely if he misses the jaw of the middle pocket, which he didn't manage to do, but in the end still not leaving any of those reds in the open play. Is going to mean the fact that Jiahui is not going to have anything available to his name apart from playing an obvious safety shot, unless he can find a nice little plant there to his name. So not that time of asking, and he's going to push one of those reds towards the left hand cushion, which I mean is a bit of a surprising short selection unless he didn't have anything else to play, because he wants those reds in open play here for himself as he tries to produce a comeback now to get himself back in this frame. Now, even though we've got 91 points still on the table, it's going to be an awful lot of a deficit for Jiahui to try and climb back into this frame, with not all of the reds, far from it, being available in the play. In fact, there's probably going to be only a couple of them. So Zhao Xintong decides to go for a shot that he's going to keep the red on the left-hand cushion or thereabout here, and he's just going to try and roll the cue ball in towards it to make sure that he's going to have himself a prime little chance to be in control and in charge of this position whilst not leaving this red in the open play. So right now just having a look to see if Jiahui can try and play this red down the cushion there in towards the yellow pocket, and in the end just catches a bit too much of the front jaw there, and the red is going to stay out, and ultimately he's going to stay out in the position that is going to make it potable there for Zhao Xintong. As he has a little look towards it, I think he's just gone far away from it to actually try and attempt it, with the cue ball being closer to the left-hand cushion than the red actually is. Always makes the red a lot more difficult for you to try and judge. to drop it in towards the yellow pocket here. But it looks like he just tried to send it in towards the bulk line. Of course, trying to make sure that Zhao is not going to have an easy stage to play. Therefore, not really having a good attempt there, because it's going to be a clear indication of Zhao either trying to double in towards the right middle, or potentially just getting the cue ball in towards the ball cushion and getting the red sent as far down the table as possible there for him. So he decides to go for a safe option just now. So still not considering a double to be played. And ultimately, remember, in the opening 2 rounds, Jiahui has only lost out 1 frame there. So, you know, Zhao Xintong will be looking to make that in the first frame to even that tally. Nice little shot there by him, because he manages to put one of those reds dead on the blackboard cushion. And still the cue ball is going to catch the yellow in the way that it's going to make sure that the cheapest of the colours is going to remain on top of the cue ball and make the queuing action a bit more difficult there for Jiahui. As we now get ever so closer to the reaching and the end game point now of the opening frame. Of course, both of these players will certainly be welcome there in the quarterfinals. One of the few players that we actually have remaining there from China, after the likes of Li Peifan, Zhang Anda, and many others have actually already been eliminated there. Could make an argument for Xiegou yesterday, losing in a decider, but ultimately we still have Jiahui, as I say, Zhao Xintong, Ding Jiahui, and ultimately we've still got Zhang Zhan himself. And C doesn't seem to be too happy about this one, as he tries to go for the edge of the red, send it in towards the left corner. Therefore has to be very careful that the black is going to catch the cushions in the right way for him. And in the end, I don't think he's played the shot as nice as he could have been played, because unless the cue ball is going to go sort of underneath the yellow, he's going to have a red available there for Zhao Xintong. But in the end, the cue ball just becomes an imposter there for Zhao Xintong and drifts exactly underneath the yellow, which makes the cut a lot more difficult there for him and makes the control of the cue ball pretty much impossible at this stage. So you'll just have a look to see, maybe you can try and force that red in towards some of the other reds there, on towards the blackboard cushion, and make sure that he's going to get himself lined up into a nice little position there, hopefully on top side of the ball colours. Get himself lined up on at least a couple of those. And, well, I mean, he's gone for a red there in towards the left corner. What a brilliant pop that is from the world champion. Certainly no hand of apology there. He certainly meant that. Very close there to dropping the cue ball into the jaws. But ultimately, he played the shot to an absolute perfection, which means he's still going to be on the yellow now. But ultimately, he's going to be very straight on this colour. So getting the cue ball down the table is going to be quite a challenge. And what I got is found, of course, not touching any of the reds, and a perfect little trajectory line means that he's going to have himself lined up for an extra chance now. How far away can he get away with his chance as he plays the yellow in towards the green pocket now? Has himself lined up in towards the left corner pocket on the red. Has to try and stun the cue ball though for the black and get himself into one of his favourite spots there in around the bottom side of the table, and uses the blackboard cushion very, very nicely to his name to make sure that it certainly is going to look like it will be the end of a frame now for Zhao Xintong and Jiahui, and he will be the world champion. That he's going to get off to a great start now. You know, it took him a couple of attempts there to do it, but in the end, it's going to be enough at this stage to get him lined up for a 1-0 advantage there over Jiahui. An important thing, of course, against both of these players is preferably you don't really want to sort of let them run away from you. He comes with the Jiahui when he was playing against Daniel Wells there to get himself in towards the late stage of the China Grand Prix. In the end, didn't get too far in that match as he was losing 3 frames to 0 there. Managed to overcome the deficit and level things up there at 3 frames each. But in the end, it was just too much of a margin there for him to actually climb back. And now it is going to be Zhao Xintong with a win in the opening frame as he gets the frame ball over and done with. So he's now going to get himself a couple of more points tally here, as he's now already on the break of 27 points. So if he makes a total clearance and plays all the reds with the black here, he'll be able to get to the points value of around 70 points there. Plays the black in towards the right corner now, and just try and get himself a little bit of table time, although I wouldn't say that, he was struggling with any aspect of the position now. It was always going to be about trying to get the long red, get himself down the table, and then anything on top of that was always going to be an easy part for him in the making. And once again there, penultimate black off the red there. So get himself lined up on a minor difficulty there shot. And having himself, having to play this red along the cushion is not going to be too much of a challenge, but he's getting himself lined up on the black is going to be a bit more of a difficulty of an ask. But he manages to use a really clever shot there to his advantage, using the cue ball and setting it in towards the jaws of the pocket there to get himself lined up on the pink, in towards the right middle. Nice little shot executed well. Gets himself lined up once again there for the yellow, in towards its own pocket, and has got straightforward 6-colour clearance there, with all 6 colours being there or thereabout there in relation to the spots, with the brown and blue being, away from their spots in a minor fashion. So just roll the green in there for him, and I think this is going to be a nice little start there for Zhao Xintong. I don't think Jiahui has to panic just yet about this one, but of course he would have liked to, having himself winning this frame. And right now, nice little transition once again there off the cue ball in towards the blue. So he's going to absolutely demolish the highest break of the match so far, with there being 34 points by Zhao Xintong in the previous occasion. And of course, the only points that Jiahui has scored was that point, was the break of 4 points there off the green and the red. As Zhao goes for a little double, running himself out of position there on the pink. Ultimately, it ain't going to matter massively, because it's not going to be 72 points of a clearance. It's still going to be a very, very nice 59 points of a break. And ultimately, it is Zhao Xintong that gets himself off to a really nice start now, and leads Jiahui by 1 frame to 0. And as I mentioned, we've got 3 other matches going on, so let's just have a little look how they're doing. Trump has actually managed to win the opening frame there against Wu Yize already. Same goes for Barry Hawkins though. So apart from Anthony McGill and Mark Selby, we got the first frame finished in all of those matches. Zhao Xintong winning his one, of course, in the opening frame. Judd Trump managed to do the same thing against Wu Yize. Barry Hawkins managed to do similar sort of thing there against Jack Lisowski. But currently, it's actually Lisowski that's on the break. So maybe trying to get the frame tally back to square one. And Anthony McGill looks like he's actually going to win over Mark Selby, because he is on the break of 50 points right now, as Selby is going to be behind there by a significant amount. So all top seeded players apart from Mark Selby actually managing to win the opening frames. And of course, Zhao Xintong, after a successful World Championship campaign, still has seen him drop out of the top 10 in the ranking, and will certainly try and restore himself back into that zone after claiming a confident win now over Jiahui. Going to be very much on the planned schedule for him. And from Jiahui's point of view, he has to make sure that he's going to be playing a little bit better in the safety play, and tries to get himself off with a better chance there against his opponent. As the referee seems to have all the colours and reds ready there, so just waiting for the cue ball to back restored to its original position. This time, of course, it is going to be Jiahui with a break-off shot, after Zhao Xintong managed to pretty much nail his one in the opening frame of this match, and put himself on the front foot in that safety play, which, of course, he managed to win at that time. After a mistake from Jiahui, offing towards the left corner, I think he's gone for the red. Wasn't really there for him, left the same red available there for Zhao Xintong, but ultimately only managed to score 14 points out of it. As Jiahui looking to be certainly ready there to break off now and get the second frame underway. As I say, with the way these players have been playing, both against each other and previously in their careers, he just don't want any of them to try and run away from each other. If Zhao Xintong manages to get a couple of more frames on the board without reply from Jiahui, he could feel like this can turn into a very similar of a match to the one that we've seen yesterday of Gary Wilson against Jiahui. Not talking about the realistic thing of a whitewash, but still think that this could be a very significant frame advantage there if Zhao will be looking to try and run away with this one. In the end, I think he has refused the long red there, which was available, to make sure that he's going to get some of the nice positional play on the cue ball and get it lined up very close towards the ball cushion. And right now has himself lined up on this red in towards the right corner there to try and play. And yeah, he decided to play a safety shot in the end of it, very nearly catching the jaws of the pocket there, which the cue ball should have been anywhere near to. But it looks like it's actually done him a little bit of a favour, because the two reds that could have been used as a potential plant there, or certainly as a safety shot, not going to be visible there by the tiniest of margins for Zhao Xintong, as he's just looking to see if maybe there's going to be another plant in towards the right corner that you can try and consider. And having a little look to see if that's going to be sort of available shot there for him. And yeah, he's looking to play the shot in towards the right corner anyway. Let's see if he's actually going to attempt the shot in towards the potting angle. And I mean, he's played it in a way that the line of the red that he was actually sending in towards the right corner pocket was there, but the power certainly wasn't. So you think that he was actually trying to play a safety shot at that time. But even though, you know, he sort of didn't leave anything there for Jiahui, he still didn't have the cue ball lined up perfectly above the bulk line, and therefore Jiahui is going to have the momentum going into the safety battle to try and put more distance in between the cue ball and the target reds there for Xintong. I think he's played the shot really, really nicely now, as himself lined up for the shot in towards the left corner, I would say there. Maybe even sort of from the spine there of the reds underneath the paint, because that's going to get you a trajectory on the cue ball that is going to guarantee that you're not going to drop it in towards the corner pocket, which is going to be a nice little bonus. But then, of course, he still has to find the gap to find the cue ball, go past in towards the bulk area, missing all the reds on the way in, and having to make sure that he's not going to leave an easy chance away, which in this position will certainly give an awful lot of opportunities there for Jiahui. And in the end, I mean, he's played a decent shot there. I wouldn't really call it a good safety, because he's gone for the transition of the cue ball onto the lower part of the table, but he's played it in a way that has left the red on in towards the right middle. So let's see what's going to be done now. Jiahui needs to make sure that he drops those type of reds in to remain a contender in this match. And let's see if that's going to be the case. Doesn't look to be, and he's going to miss the red in towards the right middle. As I say, has to be putting those types of reds if he wants to be a winner of this match and get himself into the first quarterfinal of the season. And yeah, just don't think he'll be too happy with himself here, because he could have played the shot nicer. As I say, it was one of those that, you know, if you miss it, it's understandable, but you have to be making it from the top part of the game. And yeah, I mean, the thing is, with a shot off Jiahui, he still managed to play some sort of a decent safety shot there, because that red has got the back jaw, therefore not leaving anything away there to Zhao Xintong. And now Xintong himself makes a mistake, leaves the red over the right corner pocket there for Jiahui. But getting on the collar is going to be quite a challenge. But what a line he's managed to find there, Jiahui. But is he still going to be on any of those colours? I mean, the green into the left middle does seem to be very appealing as a chance. But is it going to be taken there from Jiahui? I mean, he's just having a look to see that he's not going to have the same scenario as he was in the first frame, where he managed to get the red and the green. And that was the only 4 points that he managed to score in the opening encounter between the two of them. So now had to play the shot with a lot of topspin, but still had to play a control shot there, and doesn't seem to be too happy with himself there. He's going to have himself lined up for a mid-range shot there in towards the right corner. But if that wasn't enough there for you, you still don't have, certainly black not available. Maybe the pink is going to be available there in towards the left corner for him. So certainly would expect him to try and get the cue ball off for the blue. but makes the pot even more difficult. And in the end, it's all happening there, but it's all happening not in favour of Jiahui, because not only did he miss the red, he also managed to get the cue ball in towards the pocket there. So just like it was in the previous frame, it is going to be the break of 4 points, and it's going to be the end of Jiahui now. But just for how much time now? Because, I mean, even though it wasn't quite a bad miss, that red that he's played has gone safe there, and doesn't look like he's actually left anything away there to Zhao Xintong. Looking to play a safety here of some sort, getting the red down the table and trying to get the cue ball in behind the yellow. Decent effort there. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to be good enough from that time. And back to the safety battle we go. 4 points each. One was scored off a break. One was, of course, scored from a foul shot that followed up after the break. So right now, just try and send the cue ball down the table once again there from Jiahui, and has to make sure that if he sends the red towards the right corner, which he certainly did, he's not going to leave it over the pocket there, but it's not a nice shot in the making. With the way and the thin cut that he was attempting there, he had to make sure he left the red on the cushion. Instead, he's left it perfectly now for Zhao Xintong. Can afford to play with power, and in the end, he is going to play with power to try and get himself lined up for the ball colours. Not going to be perfect, but he's going to be alright to continue the break for the time being. As it still was a nice little way for him to get the cue ball onto the top part of the table. Lined himself up for the shot of either brown or green. I think the green is going to be easier for him to try and pot there. A nice little shot that he's made. In the end, he's going to have a couple of reds to choose from once again there. But, I mean, that problem of not having the black and the pink is still going to be valid for a bit more shots there for him to play. Simply for the way that those are actually surrounded there by the reds. And you have to take at least 3 reds to make sure that the black is playable. And also you have to take pretty much the same amount of reds if you want to take the pink in towards either one of the corner pockets. So for now, a red in towards the right middle. And yeah, he's gone for a little bit of a hidden hope there for Zhao Xintong. I mean, he's going to be very lucky if he's on the pink, and the hand of apology will go up there. I mean, he's certainly very lucky with that, because he's gone for a hidden hope in the way of sending the cue ball in towards the sort of pink and black area. And in the end, just about lines himself on the pink in towards the right middle. So going to be very important now for his chances of the break. But what I missed that is, I mean, I said it was possible, and he certainly was available there for him in towards the middle. But he should have played the shot better than that, because he's missed the pink in towards the right middle. And back to the table steps up Jiahui to give himself a second chance now of finally having a significant break now in this frame. So this time around, of course, the pink has gone onto the top part of the table. So we'll try and drop the cue ball in for the black here. Doesn't want it to be straight though, and I think he's played the shot really nicely there. So just has to make sure that he's going to get onto the top part of the table on the next shot there after potting this black in towards the left corner. Get himself lined up on the red in towards the right corner there for contrast, and get the cue ball into the top part of the area. It's going to be a nice little bonus there for him. But, I mean, he's certainly got other plans. I thought transition the cue ball on towards the blue or pink was going to be the easier way for him to go for. But he's tried to make sure that the black is going to be possible, at least one into one of those corner pockets. Don't think he's managed to succeed at that, though. And right now he's going to have, well, if he hasn't succeeded at that, he's going to be very disappointed with the way he's landed on these reds. Because one into the left corner, one into the right corner, both of them seem to be very straight there that he's landed on. Therefore, going to be a complicated shot for him to try and get on towards the top part of the table, which is where the pink and blue are currently located. Unless he wants to go for a risky shot there and try and screw back for the black, which is going to be difficult with him actually bridging over a red here. And it's a decent effort there, but I still think it's going to be nowhere near close enough to the blue to actually take it with some comfort. Still probably can't afford to end the break on just 9 points score there. So has to try and get the blue in towards the left middle, but that limits the options of the cue ball control. Therefore has to judge the power of the white to an absolute perfection, and of course has to focus on getting the blue in as well. The cue ball seems to be pacey there. Doesn't want it to go over the line that he's going to have him in towards the right corner, and very marginal there. But I think he's going to have a couple of reds available there, and it's just a question of, is he going to have the easier one available in towards the right corner pocket? And the answer is yes, he will. So he's got himself lined up on this one, and from there he can try and take the black into the everyday use and just try and get himself accelerated away into the wind of the frame to make it a scoreline of 1 frame each. Going into frame number 3 out there, but still has got some of this work to do, and as we've seen from Zhao Xintong previously, can't take your eye off the pot there, because you'll be able to miss some of the easier shots that you wouldn't expect to see there from your side. But once again there, as he has to breach over a couple of reds now, as he gets those early reds out of the way, was jumping the cue ball over the first one. He's going to get himself into a very nice little situation there, where he's going to have all of those reds, apart from maybe a little cluster of 3 reds, which I'm not even sure he's going to need there, with the points advantage that he's going to have at that time, with already being 18 points until this black is being played. He's going to have 5 more reds there, very much in open play, until he reaches the 3 reds that I mentioned. So still very much a high scoring break on the cards now for Jiahui, as he's just looking to see maybe he can have a go at the red off into the right corner, which is going to free up another red there for him. Of course, he can always get in behind both of them there and play them in towards the left corner, but it just has to be a bit more precise with the cue ball control, which, you know, he would rather just have the simple shot into the right corner rather than playing the long way around there for the left hand side of the table. But for now, he's going to take his focus off those couple of reds and try and eliminate the next couple in towards the left corner. And very smart shot there once again there, because he knew he could have left himself with the red there in towards the left corner. So therefore, he risked of going the cue ball and sending it in towards the pack of 3 reds underneath the pink spot. And a very nice shot there, well played. And certainly now going to accelerate himself off into the distance and try and dominate this second frame. It's a similar scenario to the one that we've seen in the opening frame. And right now it is going to be Jiahui that is actually going to be on the dominated side of things. And rolls the red in towards the right corner once again there. So of course a break of 47 points, getting ever closer to another 50 plus break that I think we're going to see a lot of from both of the players being very much attacking there. And Zhao Xintong being one of the leading players in search for the 100 century breaks in a season. Of course, Sean Murphy's going to lead that one by having 30 to his name already. So Jiahui is going to be a bit far down the order if you compare himself to either Sean Murphy, Watchalong or Zhao Xintong there. But ultimately, he's got a nice little chance there to produce a century break. So right now his focus is going to be on the next 2 shots to get the frame on the board. Roll the black in towards the left corner. Get yourself lined up on the red into the same pocket. And it is going to be 1 frame each there, going into frame number 3. And very much high quality snooker there, far from maybe a couple of early errors in terms of break building stuff. Certainly has been sublime there from both Jiahui and Zhao Xintong in respective frames that they won. But you also have to say that, you know, either one could have won the opening 2 frames there, had the chances. It doesn't look like they had the execution. And yeah, a bit of a weird shot there the Jiahui had to play. You know, he's tried to play with the perfect execution there to get himself lined up very straight on the ready towards the right middle. It ultimately looks like he's going to snooker himself on towards the red in towards the right middle, I should say. And let's see if he's going to be able to get through to the other red there. Off into the right corner. The answer is no. So the break of 70 points is still going to be more than good enough there for Jiahui to go into the third frame, with it being 1 frame each there, nothing to separate the 2 players. And it's now perfect response there from Jiahui to an early great start from Zhao Xintong himself. And right now, Jiahui and Wu Yize are battling away there in the second frame. Barry Hawkins is off to a great start there against Jack Lisowski, winning 2 of the opening frames, and also being very much on the cards there of doing a similar sort of thing there in frame number 3. Mark Selby and Anthony McGill there look to be very close to each other as well, as that match has actually seen 2 frames ended as well, with Mark Selby producing a brilliant break of 134 points on the previous occasion, and Barry Hawking himself having a break of 123 points in the opening frame of the match there. Jiahui not quite with a century break, but still a great break of 89 points there to get himself an early frame on the board. Right now it is going to be Jiahui against Xintong to restore themselves off into the playing game. And the third frame won't really be very much essential to either one of the players, because you don't have any of them trailing by 2 frames to nil. Therefore, just has to be careful, any of one of them, in terms of giving an early chance there to his opponent, because we've seen that very much backfire against both of them in frame number 1 and 2. You know, the early chances weren't taken, and therefore the player that was able to come back to the table straight away was still able to produce a brilliant break there of 59 points, respectively, for Xintong, and 70 points for Jiahui on the second time of asking, I should say. It's going to be Xintong with the break-off shot this time around. And the referee has got all the reds, all the colours, and the cue ball ready, so just waiting for the signal for us to begin frame number 3. Xintong is still a massive favourite in the poll, by the way, 71% over 29 there for Jiahui. So, you know, the world champion clearly getting the benefit of the doubt there of the 2 Chinese players. As I say, I wouldn't really say it's 71 to 29%. I would have Zhao to win probably 60-40 there, but you know, there's a reason why there's only 3 ranking spots in between the 2 of them. One of them has got into the quarterfinal of the World Championship, and of course the other one has managed to win it all together. Nice little shot though by the world champion. And once again, just like it was in the opening frame, it's a nice little break off to get him started. Jiahui now has got red available to play for safety. Surely he's not going to have it played for the way of actually taking this on there in towards the left corner, but he's played a mistake there. And I said it was a nice break off, and it looks to be the one that is going to give Xintong a perfect opportunity now to get himself lined up for a nice little position here. And he gets the red in towards the right corner. Very much weird shot selection there, and you know, should have done a lot better there, Jiahui, because he leaves a nice little red as an invitation there for him in towards the right corner. And Xintong loves those sort of chances, especially when it comes with the black ball being available there to him. Right now, he's already a break of 8 points and counting right now. So just has to try and avoid the contact on the black to be significant. And get another red in towards the right corner. Nicely played there. So 16 points there is going to be after this black. And he just has to try and ensure that he's going to be able to stay around the black ball zone. And not repeat the same error that he's managed in the previous frame of missing the pink in towards the right middle, which ultimately was the last shot that he's played in that frame. And yeah, it doesn't look like he's going to have a lot more joy there in this frame encounter though, unless he's got a red available in towards the right middle, which I will say very much lucky in that way if it's actually going to be the case. Rolls the red in towards the right middle, and he actually was available there, so he's not going to stay around the black ball zone for too many shots though, as it's going to be the ping for him to try and get in towards the left middle. But ultimately, you know, the shot that he's played has actually given him a couple of reds to choose from, and therefore I just think he's going to enjoy having a bit more of the table time there to his name. 23 points and counting. Sends the cue ball on towards the top part of the table now, and tries to have himself lined up for the shot in towards the yellow pocket. Takes it nicely. Back for the blue and in towards the right middle. So aiming the blue, I should say, sorry, to try and go into that zone. So maybe once again there, he's going to try and play the cue ball in towards the reds there, but surely not this time around, as he's still got a couple of more reds available there in towards the right corner. 29 points of a break, and he could make it something into the break of 50 points, maybe 45 points there for himself, as rolls the cue ball through the shot here. But he has got a very nice little appealing position now to try and send the cue ball in towards the main bunch of red zone here. So let's see if that's going to be the case for him to try and actually execute the shot nicely. And in fact, he's had one of those lowest reds available there for himself in towards the right corner. So ultimately, is going to be enough for him at this stage to try and get a couple of more points on the board. Ultimately, the pack is only going to consist of 5 reds there, which, you know, adds up to 67 points. And of course, if he is to eliminate all the other reds, he's going to be away with more points tally than that. And just looking to see if there's going to be any plant there available for him in towards the left corner. Doesn't seem to be the case. And of course, we have seen world champions from China, not world champions from China, sorry, the champions of this tournament in China. In 2024 it was Ding Jiahui, in 2023 it was Zhang Anda. Let's see if we're going to see another one from China this season though. It's going to be Zhao Xintong there, who is yet to get off to a great start there of this season after having the most wonderful of fairy tales at the ending of the last season there. Becoming the first world champion of China, still was off to a bit of an awful start there ever since Shanghai Masters, where he managed to get some of the players like Ding Jiahui eliminated there, but ultimately lost out in the quarter-final stage of the ranking of the invitational event. And ever since, you know, Saudi Arabia Masters has been a bit of a disaster there for him. Wuhan Open hasn't been a lot better. You know, you have to go back to English, British, or even Northern Ireland Open. He hasn't got too far in those tournaments either, and this is going to be his chance there, because it is this sort of format of matches that he enjoys, with him just being able to get up to speed there, with more frames being played. And right now, certainly being up to speed in this frame, looking to end the first one of those, with his opponent not scoring any of those points. 59 points is now his advantage, with 83 points on the table. So as I said previously, 2 more reds is probably going to do him the job here, because with the black now he's going to be 67 points clear, and the next red will make sure it's only 67 on the table, with 68 being the advantage at that stage. So we'll probably need a colour after the black, but as I say, I don't think there's a clear sign that he's going to slow down and just put a handbrake after passing the frame ball. He's still going to try and aim for a century break to entertain the fans even more, after we've already seen a very quick start now to this match. 50 minutes since it started, and it looks like we're going to get the third frame on the board now, and the second one for Zhao Xintong's favour. Of course, this is going to mean that Jiahui is going to lose more frames in an hour than he has lost out in the previous 2 rounds, and yeah, Zhao Xintong just checking that he could afford to go and send the cue ball into the bunch of reds. He certainly could afford to do that now and play the shot really nicely. And going to have himself lined up for a couple of more reds. None of them are going to be easy though, but a shot into either left or right middle is still going to be a nice little start there for him. And nicely played yet again there. So 3 reds are going to get him over the line in terms of a century break. And as I mentioned, Mark Selby managed to get a fantastic break of 134 points. And technically, we could still see a 140 of the break if Zhao Xintong goes for a majority of those reds with the black here and makes a total clearance. But a bit of a commentator's curse there, maybe spoke too soon. It is going to be just a break of 83 points, so not quite a century break, but ultimately it's still a very important frame there for Zhao Xintong's point of view, as he now leads Jiahui by 2 frames to 1 going into the last frame of the opening mini session. And the match is certainly being played in the spirit that I wanted it to be played. The attacking, very much lovely to see snooker. And by the way, Barry Hawkins, I mean, he's trying to run away with it now. He's 3-0 up there against Jack Lisowski. Jack is currently on the break of a single point there, but I mean, that is going to be a tough little gap there for him to try and overcome. Once again there, Selby is on the break of 66 points and counting. So looking to restore and get himself back in the advantage game against Anthony McGill, as he's looking for that 2-1 cushion there, which is that Zhao Xintong, of course, has got now to his name. Chomp has managed to win the second frame against Wu Yize and is currently leading another Chinese player there by 2 frames to 0. Ultimately, it was always going to be a difficult challenge there for the world number 22 against the world champion of 2019. And ultimately, we still have Ding Jiahui there, as I said, Jiang Zhang and Wu Yize. And the pair of these two, Zhao Xintong against Jiahui, as the Chinese players left out in the tournament. So certainly, at least one of them is guaranteed to make it into the quarterfinal. And you probably would expect Ding to be a massive challenger there for Sean Murphy, after both of them have managed to overcome their opponents there of Liam Highfield and Elias Lesser in quite a difficult battle there. In the end, let's see if it's going to be Ding or Murphy to actually progress in towards the quarterfinal stage. So now, all eyes are going to be on the fourth frame here. Let's see if we're going to get ourselves lined up for a nice little battle once again. The referee has got all the reds and all the colours ready there, so just waiting for the confirmation that the frame is going to start. And on that note, we're going to be heading into the last frame of the first mini session until the 15 minutes intermission of a break. Again, get ourselves lined up for at least 4 more frames of snooker if Jiahui is going to guarantee himself to a 2-all draw there going into the intermission break. Of course, if it's going to be a 3-1 lead there for Zhao Xintong, then we're only going to get a guaranteed amount of 3 frames there. But still, as I say, I think it's going to be very unlikely that the match is going to finish with a white of 6 frames to 1 there, with it currently being the biggest possible deficit there of a scoreline. Nice little break though by Jiahui, managed to overcome the issue of the one that he's had in the second frame. Now Zhao Xintong just having a look to see if he's going to have this red available in towards the left corner. In the end, ultimately, I think the answer is yes to that, but has to make sure that he doesn't make the same mistake that Jiahui has done in the previous frame there. And I mean, I'm not too sure what the shot approach was actually there for him, but whatever it wasn't very smart there, because it looked like he played a safety there, but he caught the double kiss there, pretty much full ball there on the cue ball, and it's going to leave a nice little chance here for Jiahui. So I say a nice little chance. I mean, it's certainly look a little bit concerned about the position on the colour. The red is certainly going to be there for him, but it's going to be the position on the black, which is going to be a struggle. And I mean, with the way the black is actually positioned there, you'll probably have to ask whether it was an attempt of a attacking shot there from Zhao Xintong, because he probably was a safety shot. He just wasn't the one that he played with a great piece of accuracy, and he hasn't really played very well there. But Jiahui still, as I say, hasn't made his mind up on what the next colour is going to be there for him to try and aim towards. Certainly has to take the red first in towards the left corner, and yeah, I mean, he's tried to cannon the cue ball slightly in towards the bunch of the reds. Still going to be on the blue though, in towards the green pocket there. So the break is going to continue now, but as it stands, he's going to have to travel the long way around there for the blue for the majority of those situations. And just has to be very, very careful that he doesn't actually run himself out of position. You know, he's going to get himself lined up for the shot in towards the right corner after this, and then maybe just potentially, you know, in a couple of shots in advance there, he wants to have that red eliminated there, which is going to make black possible into both left and right corner, which is going to be a nice little boost there for him. And takes the green in instead. I thought he was going to take for the blue, and he was going to go for the blue there for me, but just like he was in 2 of the previous frames, he has got a break of a red and a green there to get himself started with. Now, is the black going to be available there for him to try and play in towards the left corner pocket? Because if it is, it's going to be a massive boost there for him. I think he's just going to go and check that, just to ensure if that's going to be the case. No, he's just gone for the extension. So clearly, got his eyes lined up there on the next colour that he's going to play. It has to be either blue or black now. Which one is it going to be? I mean, the power that he's looking to play this shot probably indicates that he's going to go for the blue there. No, he's not. He's going to go for a brilliant cueing, and what a piece of cueing that was, and what a brilliant shot that was. Gets himself lined up perfectly on the black there. Cannons the red out of the way that I mentioned. Had to play the shot to an absolute perfection, otherwise he would run himself completely out of position. Instead, he's going to be very much in control of this position now, and he's going to remain as the prime favourite now for this frame to be taken his way, as long as he manages to cut the black in towards the left corner. Get himself lined up for a couple of more reds there. And a nice little execution once again there from Jiahui, as he gets himself lined up for the red in towards left corner. So play through the shot now. Get yourself lined up on either pink or black there. Both of them are going to be available there for the taking. And just played the cue ball a little bit wider there to make sure that the angle on the black was going to allow him to take the shot in towards the right corner, with the red not being in the way. And I think the red that I mentioned is going to be played next there in towards the right corner there to follow the black into the same pocket. Now 20 points advantage, still having maybe 3 reds available there to his name after this one. And just trying to accelerate away there. And just like it was in the previous frame, with Xintong making a break of 83 unanswered points. Well, Jiahui can try and do similar sort of thing here, because unlike it was in the previous 2 frames, where the opposition players that didn't win the frame still had a couple of points scored there and a couple of chances to their name. The last couple of frames seeing the step up there from the sort of clinical game from both Jiahui and Xintong. Right now, he's going to have himself lined up for the red in towards the right corner. Just having to see if he's going to be able to get through to the red, which I counted as the on and open play. Well, still having a couple of more there to his name, but of course if the answer is negative, he can always go for a nice little transition shot and send the cue ball onto the top part of the blue, get himself with a little bit of the angle. And even though it is going to involve a minimal risk there, still going to have to go for a little bit of a split of the bunch underneath the pink, which I think is actually set up perfectly there for him. You know, maybe has to just keep an eye on a plant of reds there in towards the right corner, but ultimately that's not going to be the main thing for him to try and focus on. Right now, nice little shot there in terms of getting the red in, but I don't think he's played the shot as nice in terms of getting on the blue here and getting straight on the yellow as well. So unless he decides to go for a screw back shot, can't really see him getting perfectly there. So yeah, he's looking to go for a screw back, and you know, a lot of backspin has to be applied on the shot, but also there's a very little margin there for him to make an error. So has to judge the piece of cueing to an absolute perfection now once again there to get the yellow in first. And is he going to be lined up on this red in towards the left corner? I think it's a good effort there, but as I say, it had to be absolutely spot on there. Seems to be very confident there in his approach. And yes, he can just about get through to this red there in towards the left corner, get himself lined up for the black into the same pocket, and ultimately get the break of around 37 points there to his name, until you have one more red there available. If he's going to try and play for it, I think he's going to try and accelerate the cue ball in towards the bunch of reds and have himself lined up onto something there. Is he going to have that something though? I mean, it's a good shot there, but I think he's going to be unlucky with one of the reds being in the way of another in towards the right middle, so therefore has to go for a shot into either left middle or the yellow pocket there. I think the one into the left middle is going to be slightly easier there for him to play, but still has to be very careful there, especially with the position of the cue ball. Wants it to be the right side of the blue, and just about is going to be. So nice little recovery there. As I say, pretty unlucky with the way he's managed to land on the red, with a couple of them being blocked by each other in towards the right middle, but ultimately managed to get himself onto the blue here, and now we'll have that red eliminated there. Very close by the right middle, and extend the points advantage to 43 points, and instead, as I say, now he can have all the shot selection in the world now to his name, and instead he's going to go for the red in towards the right corner. So try and play that one once again, having a nice little angle to get the cue ball onto the blue, and just having himself lined up on the right side of the blue, but overrun it. So once again, may have to take the yellow with the backspin there to get the cue ball down the table yet again. But having that nice little backup option there in case he overplays it for the blue just allows him to make sure that he's never going to run on the lower side of the blue, which is going to require him to use the ball cushion, which is always going to be quite a challenging shot there for the players. Therefore, you can always go and mix it up there of having the yellow, green or blue as his main 3 options when he can't play for the black there. And of course the pink after the cannon has gone on towards the ball cushion. So now 47 points is the advantage. So looking to have, once again there, the third 50 plus break that we're going to see in the opening 4 frames. Very much nothing to separate the two players here in terms of the way they've managed to play those frames. And I'll be honest with you, ever since we got to that sort of 16-point zone, it was always going to be one or the other player in control and in charge of that frame. Let's see if it's going to be 4 out of 4 there for Jiahui. And it's going to be 2 frames each by the players. 1 in the opening mini session. And I mean, underrun for the red slightly. So this is going to be a bit of a difficult shot there. And of course, the problem with those types of positions is if you give an easy red away to your opponent, you haven't got any red safe anywhere close onto the cushion. You've got a couple of them bunched up there. But ultimately, for the player like the Cyclone Zhao Xintong, it's not going to be too much of an issue there. And once again there, not the perfect shot to be played, and unlucky there. To be fair, it's very unlucky from Jiahui's point of view, because even though he's played it with way too much power, he's managed to get the red, and he also managed to get the green at the same time there. So, you know, just like he was with the black in the opening frame, right now it's going to be the same thing with the green. And back to the table steps up Zhao Xintong. Is he going to go for that red in towards the left corner for a little bit of a sort of do or die shot to either get himself back in this frame or sort of have himself lined up for a bit more of a battle for a safety play? He's gone for a plant there and he's made it. And just as I was saying that it is very dangerous for you to leave a position like that away to your opponent, well, I mean, Zhao Xintong has got one of the best chances that he'll ever get in his life to actually win this frame now. From being 50 points down, looks like he was in and out of this frame there. And right now, he's got 47 points to try and overcome. And he still has 59 points on the table here. As he gets another red in towards the right corner. So now looking to go for the black in towards the left corner now. And I mean, like, you don't really know where he's going to go wrong there for him. And I don't think he's going to need the black there, which is going to be a significant thing as well, because the way the pink has gone towards the yellow spot there, it might have actually been quite a bit of a difficulty there for him to play that shot. And instead, it's going to be straightforward clearance, you would think. And I'm just trying to see if he's going to need the black there, or he's going to be able to go 7 points clear until he actually gets on the black there, which of course is going to make any snooker pursuit impossible, with there being only one colour remaining, and just give him a bit more breathing space to make sure that he doesn't have to play the pink with too much power, get himself lined up with an angle and all sorts of things. But as I say, right now he's 30 points down, so maybe it's going to be a bit touch and go there as he rolls the black in towards the left corner. And gets himself lined up for the last red there, in towards the left middle. So 23 points now is the difference in between the two of them. As we head into the 4th frame now, very much in the endgame phase once again there. And a very different outcome from the one that you could have predicted previously. 23 points now in between the two of them. Makes that 22 there, but doesn't seem to be too happy with the way he's going to have this position now on the black in towards the right pocket. Has to play with mighty lots of power. And has to miss the blue as well. Played the shot very nicely there for Zhao Xintong. Now he's 15 points down, so he is going to need the black here, you would think. Yes, he is. So unfortunately, he can't be able to get away with that shot, and he still has to make that transition work there for his name. Bit underrun on the green though, so, you know, marginally, just being out of position there on a couple of those shots. Still should be able to recover, and the position on the brown is going to be there for him anyway. So it's going to be always about just making the green in, and as he does that, as I say, the position on the brown was always going to be there for him. But after we've seen the break of 47 points there from Jiahui, we're going to see a break of 50 plus now by Zhao Xintong, and a very important point of this frame and very important point of the match there, especially for Zhao Xintong to actually find himself on the winning things here against Jiahui. Now hammers the blue home, and it's all going to be about the shot on the pink here. As I said, going to be 2 points short there, not to need the black, so still Needs to have a nice little angle here, which he's going to have on this ping. So roll this one in and wobbled a bit in the jaws. And therefore, he's going to run himself out of position on the black there. I mean, he wobbled in the jaws, which is always a sign there that the shot wasn't played with the right approach. And I mean, he's not going to take the black on, surely. I know he's an attacking player, but that is not the shot for you to go for, because if you miss it, bye-bye the frame. Surely he's going to just trust himself there to go for the safety battle. He is going to go for it, and he is going to make it there. What a shot by Xintong. And against all odds there, he produces a break of 62 points to get himself a frame on the board now. And it is now Xintong 3, Jiahui 1 going into the intermission break. And what the opening 4 frames we had there, barely an hour in between the 4 frames. And it is now Xintong 3, Jiahui 1 there. In the other matches, we've got Chomp leading pretty much there by 3 frames to nil there on the break of 56 points against Wu Yize. Barry Hawkins is battling away there against Jack Lisowski for a 4-0 lead. And Mark Selby and Anthony McGill are still scrapping away there for the 4th frame there. Mark Selby for now leads by 2 frames to 1. We'll be back with you in around 53 minutes past. And we'll see you around for more action there. And Xintong is looking to make his first quarterfinal appearance of this season. Alright then everyone, intermission is now over and back to the action we go, and back to the action Jiahui goes, because now he's got himself lined up for the red in towards the left corner, but he's going to miss it by an absolute mile there. And now the question is, where's the next red going to finish? Going to finish very close towards the right corner pocket, but ultimately I don't think it's going to be visible there to Xintong. And we're going to see if he's going to find a way there to try and actually get himself out of that position. And yeah, of course, he's going to try and roll the cue ball in towards the bunch of reds, which is going to be understandable at this stage. And yeah, Jiahui is just asking Xintong for a re-rack. And yeah, I think the players are going to agree on this. And certainly are, and nice little stuff there to see. So not going to have too much of a time wasting here. And it was an early chance there for Jiahui, but because of the way he managed to place the cue ball, basically gave himself a free shot there, because he wasn't going to need anything there for Xintong. And when Zhao rolled the cue ball in towards a bunch of reds, it was always going to be understandable that, you know, the match was either going to go into a lengthy safety battle, or it was going to be resulting in a re-rack. And by the way, on the other tables, Barry Hawkins against Jack Zalski there, it's currently a whitewash there of 4-0 in favour of the Hulk, looking to make his first quarterfinal of the season as well, just like Xintong and Jiahui. You know, Jack Zalski, of course, has been there on a couple of occasions. And of course, the most famous one has to be his brilliant win at the Northern Ireland Open decider against Trump in the final, where he managed to take his maiden ranking event title. And yeah, Wu Yize is still struggling against Trump, and the scoreline could be very close to 4-0 there, last time I checked, with Trump being on the break. And Mark Selby is actually going to get the job done there against Anthony McGill, so it is going to be 3-1 there in that match going into the intermission. And back onto the break-off shot now we go. Nice little shot there by Xintong. Still is going to leave the couple of reds there to Jiahui. Let's see if he's going to take the same approach as he has taken on the first version of this frame. And maybe hope for another re-rack if he misses it, of course. But you would expect him to make at least one of those shots there. And he can't keep missing them. Well, he can. And he just has. And this same red is going to be available there to Xintong. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. And yeah, I mean, Zhao is going to be able to get through to this red there in towards the left corner, and therefore, just think he's going to be in the perfect position there to try and get himself up for the pink, which is going to be possible in towards the right middle for sure, maybe even in towards the left corner, which is going to make the things a bit easier there for Xintong. And going to be on the top side of the blue as the advantage there, but ultimately very close to the right-hand cushion there with the cue ball. We know the drill now with these players. Well, the way the opening 4 frames have gone, you have to be in there with an early chance, but you also have to make it work there. Jiahui was the only player that was able to get a significant break there on the previous occasion in frame before that, but still lost out on the frame after a wonderful little clearance by Xintong, including the difficult block there to win him the frame. And what a shot he's just played there. Xintong is certainly on fire, and just like I was saying, give him time. You don't become world champion for no reason there. And he's going to be shining once again there in this tournament. Knocking on the door there for the quarterfinal stage. It's certainly a nice little break. He's going to be underway here. And all he has to do is roll the red in towards the right corner. And he's going to be in a perfect position for the black there. But that's a mistake there. I mean, I did say he was knocking on the door there. I didn't say he was there just yet. And it is going to be the break of just 6 points. So maybe the tendency will continue. You know, sort of breaks of 20 plus there is usually the amount that these two players need to get themselves started on a comfortable break there. And I mean, Xintong was basically a shot away from doing that. Because you get your top lines up for the black, and all of a sudden you're in complete charge of the position. Instead, it's going to be Jiahui trying to put up a bit more of a challenge there to him. And, I mean, he's just having a look to see if he's going to be a plant available in towards the left corner there to follow up with the black. With those two reds. Ultimately, doesn't seem to be the case just at this stage. Still think, well, you can make adjustments to this plan, but it doesn't seem to be going quite as straight in towards the pocket as you want it to be. And of course has to take the black first and maybe try and play in behind a couple of those reds in towards the left middle. He now gets himself 2 points clear out there. And Xintong has to find himself on the receiving end of things here for the second time in this match. After losing the second frame out there. Could have very much lost out on the fourth one as well, but as I say, Jiahui wasn't able to finish off the job out there and left the position available after a bit of a mishit there, a bit of an unlucky shot, but also, as I say, I don't know why he was playing with so much power there after that red into the corner. In the end, cannon the cue ball in towards the green and potted it alongside the red, therefore giving a chance for Xintong to have an opening red, which he managed to find from the plant, and nothing seems to stop him from that point. The referee just having a look to see if the black is going to be able to go back on his spot. And yes is the answer. So probably going to be more of a disadvantage there to Jiahui. Unless the black is going to be playable in towards the left corner pocket. Because it certainly isn't available in towards the right corner pocket of the table. And I mean, good news is he's just managed to free up the black. And bad news probably has to be the fact that he has gone over in towards the black ball cushion itself. And the two reds there, he's played into the black there. I've actually taken the black ball spot and therefore going to make the positional play around the black there very much difficult there for him indeed. Just trying to see where he wants to place the cue ball here and compromise with the fact massively that he's going to be very straight on the green here, or he's going to have the angle which is going to lead him onto the opposite side of the table there of the yellow. Probably has to take the brown for ideal scenario now, but certainly not the yellow, so it has to be green or brown. But I really don't see, well, realistically, I don't see the way that he's going to get the cue ball down the table, unless he has to do it like along the right-hand side cushion, off the ball cushion there, which is what he's tried there, but it was always going to be short on the pace there. Unless that red is actually goes in towards the left corner, that's going to be a boost there for him, but still don't think straightforward situation there for him in terms of getting on the next colour. Just about does, I think. But as I say, it's very, very much touch and go there. Very close, too close for comfort there. And I'm not even sure that he's going to take the red on. As I say, he has to play with power to make sure that he's going to get really deep into the cue ball and play it into the blue, which makes it missable. Has to control it and send it in towards the front jaw of the pocket. Yeah, as I said, had to refuse that shot. Didn't. Let's see if it's going to cost him, because he is going to catch the front red. Never going to work there for you, because when you try to play that shot with power, I don't know how he didn't understand that himself. If he wants to aim it in towards the front jaw there, which is what he had to do to make sure he pots the red, he ain't going to be able to play with so much power, because the room for the red to drop is actually going to be very much limited there for himself. As Xintong goes with a brilliant shot there to get the red into the left corner, avoids that little in-off there, in towards the right middle, and now he's going to get himself another chance. Yeah, so very surprised to see that short selection from Jiahui. Once again, it probably has to go back to him being such an attacking player, but that was pretty much boundary on a a reckless shot there, and signs of desperation there. Clearly knows that can't afford to go 4-1 down, desperate to go 3-2 down right now, and it doesn't seem to be the case now, because this position, which is far from ideal there, but is certainly looking promising for Zhao Xintong, is looking to be very much within his grasp now. Lands himself perfectly on the blue there, just about the right side of it. Drop the cue ball in behind the red. Get himself lined up for the shot in towards the right corner. And he's now going to have 5 points as his advantage. 107 points still on the table there, so a little bit of work to do. But ultimately, he's going to have around 4 of those reds available. Not even counting the 2 that are currently taking the black ball spot, which, you know, you think with the way Zhao Xintong plays the game, you'll be able to get into play pretty quickly. And there's your answer. He managed to do it straight away there. Has to sacrifice the position on the next red. And let's see how costly that's actually going to be. The black is going to be respotted there on his spot. And I mean, if he gets the red in, it shouldn't be costly at all. And it's going to be a brilliant piece of positional play there once again there by Zhao Xintong, because he gets the red in. Bit on the line there for the black. So would have liked the cue ball with a bit more pace, but it's still going to be the one that is actually easier than the black that he's managed to put to win in the 4th frame. And certainly now, as he gets the black in, certainly going to run away with it now. Only a handful of reds there for him to try and pot. I think 4 reds that are going to be available there to him. Going to be more than enough there, because that's going to leave 59 points on the table, and the gap is already 22 points. Surely going to get over that line very, very quickly indeed. As he makes it 29 points of a gap now, with the black disappearing off in towards the right corner. Has himself lined up for the red, in towards the left-hand side of the table once again here. And just drop this one in, and try and have yourself lined up there for the shot of the black in towards the left corner. So now 30 points is the advantage. As you're going to roll the black in, it's going to be 37 points. So may actually need 1 more red there off the little 4 cluster there underneath the pink. But as I say, just like it was with the 2 reds that were actually positioned very close towards the black ball spot there, I think cannoning into one of them is going to be a lot more easier of a task. But doesn't want to be straight on his black, of course. He's got 1 more available red there to him, and he's actually starting to see if there's a plant option available in towards the left corner. I mean, the fact that he hasn't cannoned in towards the reds probably suggests that there is an option there available, but ultimately he's going to be able to recover nicely. So gets the black in, and the gap of 44 points now, and the break of 50 points now to his name as he rolls the red in. And going to have himself with a little bit of the angle on the blue. Don't really think that, you know, it's going to be enough there for him to get a clean shot of the red. So maybe he's just going to try and position the cue ball on that plant there, which he clearly fancies, in towards the left corner. Because that's going to be a frame ball there for him, basically there, because he's going to go 51 points clear with 51 on the table. But of course can't afford to miss it, because if he makes it, the pink and black are going to be there for him, with all 6 colours being on their spots now. And yeah, the plant seems to be perfect there. So just aim that red in towards the other one with a bit of pace. And it's going to be in there. And a bit overplayed the shot though. I mean, he had to play with power, but he sort of landed a bit in between there. Thought he was going to play with power and bounce off the black ball cushion there. Instead, he's tried to roll it for the black. But once again there, as he was playing those blacks there in towards the left corner and right corner previously in this match, he's going to get this one in, and he certainly is going to be frame over now. Well, he's already himself out of position on those reds, to be fair, so just has to have a little look now to see maybe you can try and roll 1 more red in towards the right corner there. So the break of 64 points is going to be very important there for him, and ultimately 2 snookers now for Jiahui to get himself back in this frame. Lovely little shot once again there, getting the yellow in between the cue ball and the main red. As the main threat there for Jiahui, and getting the cue ball perfectly on towards the ball cushion. So 2 snookers, not to tie there, but to get himself back in this frame. But as I say, It's going to be a bit of a problem there, getting on those 2 reds first, and especially if you play shots like that. It's going to leave a red there available for Zhao Xintong, and certainly, barring something incredible, it is going to be now frame to the world champion, and a nice little 4-1 gap there, winning 3 frames on the bounce, and breaking that sequence with the last frame of the first mini session, and is able to restore exactly where he left off there in the second mini session, and nice little red there in towards the right middle. Is certainly going to be a confirmation there that it is going to be 4 frames to 1 there to Zhao Xintong, whilst he still has a little bit of a clearance. Let's have a little look with a wonderful blue there in towards the right corner. Let's have a look how the other matches are doing. And it is certainly going to be 3-1 of a gap there in favour of Mark Selby. 4-1 there for Barry Hawkins. So Lisowski managed to get 1 frame away. And Wu Yize is still having a massive whitewash there against Watchalong. 4 frames to 0 there. It's the advantage for the world number 1. And Zhao Xintong certainly looking to run away with this one now. As I said, prior to this match, Jiahui has only lost out 1 of those frames in the opening 2 rounds against Gary Wilson and the opposition player that he had to face in the first round. Right now, has to roll the red there in towards the left corner for Zhao Xintong and get to quite nicely. So, because, I mean, you could argue that Van Yuhen and Gary Wilson wasn't the toughest sort of opposition there for Jiahui there, and Li Beifan for Zhao Xintong, which you had to take into the side there, of course, would have been a lot more difficult. But, you know, technically, of course, you've got Gary Wilson as the runner-up there in Wuhan Open this season in China. The tournament that neither Jiahui or Zhao Xintong have performed at too nicely out there. And ultimately, it is going to be a nice little break here for Zhao Xintong as he's looking to try and run away with it here. You know, the break off 24 points and counting. Gets himself lined up for the blue in towards the left middle. So looking to finish on a potential break off 35 points here. If he decides to just leave the black on the table. And no, he's going to play for the black there. So maybe a break of 42 points there to wrap off the 5th frame. And not quite yet because he tried to hammer the black. In the end, it's going to stay out there. But yeah, he's going to be a little bit of a stretch there. And he's certainly going to be enjoying himself out there. And certainly smiling as he goes back to his seat. Not so much smiling though for Jiahui, because now he's got an absolute mountain to climb there against world champion. Would have been the underdog going into this match anyway. It's going to be a hell of an underdog now. It is now 4 frames for Zhao Xintong and only 1 for Jiahui. So far, with Barry Hawkins being on the break now against Jack Lisowski, it does look to be a bit of a domination performance in all 4 of these matches. You know, maybe with Barry running himself out of position, Jack is going to be able to get himself back into this frame. But as I say, Selby managed to win 3 frames on the bounce. Hawkins managed to win 4 frames on the bounce. Same goes for Chom there with a nice little 4-0 cushion over Wu Yize. And Jiahui has now lost out 3 frames on the bounce there with Zhao Xintong marching closer to the quarter-final spot there to meet potentially either Mark Selby or Anthony McGill. Going to be very interesting to see one of those players making the semi-final, especially, of course, it's going to be the home favourite, Zhao Xintong there. Could we see an all-Chinese final there with Ding Jiahui there being one of the favourites? Trump looks like he's peaking again. Wouldn't say that just yet, simply for the reason of I would like him to get to the quarter-final, and if he faces against Barry Hawkins or Jack Lisowski, looks to be favourite for the Hawkins. I just think I'm not seeing the match, but with Wu Yize, like, he's such a brilliant player on one hand, but also he's just such an inconsistent player there. And you can see, so Chom didn't have any centuries there, and his highest breaks were 89 in the first frame and 67 in the second frame. So I just don't think he's getting the sort of opposition there. As I said, I wouldn't really say he's been playing his best because he's managed to lose 3 or 4 frames there to Naponse and Kam yesterday, which, once again, is a great player there, but he's not necessarily the opposition that you would expect to challenge the world number 1 there. Let's see. As I say, the quarter-final stage is where it's realistically going to click in there for Chom. But in fairness, if you talk about Chom there this season, his struggle has been getting into the quarter-final stages this season, as the first one that he's actually managed to reach was, of course, the runner-up spot there against Jack Lisowski in the Northern Ireland Open. Jiahui now gets us underway in frame number 6 there. And by the way, Jack Lisowski's on another break there against Barry Hawkins. So maybe just looking to half the deficit there from 4-0 there to 4-2. Maybe another comeback. We've seen a couple of those from Lisowski. Did actually have that feeling that he's produced his best snooker against O'Sullivan. And of course Trump previously. So it was always going to be a struggle there for him to try and challenge Hawkins into the quarter-final spot. Barry has actually been playing pretty well himself there, dispatching Jack Jones quite comfortably yesterday. And yeah, it's a bit of a rush shot there from Zhao Xintong, because he clearly feels like the match is there for the taking. But I still would say be careful with those shots approach, because you've seen him punished for that in frame number 2 there, with him missing the pink in towards the right middle. And see Jiahui going on a break of 70 points to get him this frame 1 there. Of course, up to date, it's the only one that he's managed to win so far. But never underestimate your opposition, especially in the last 16 stage. After you manage to get through the qualifying plus 2 more rounds. Has to be careful right now. And try and get this match finished as soon as possible. And for Zhao, he just has to try and hold on to those chances, because he knows he's going to get plenty of them with the type of opposition that he's going up against here with Zhao Xintong. Now gets the pink in nicely in towards the right middle, and a nice little bonus there for him for the fact of pink going onto the blue spot. So this could be a nice little promising chance there for him. Just to say that, he miscues and jumps over a red there. So I mean, I don't actually think I jinxed him there, because all I said was a nice promising chance there. But yeah, it's all going wrong there for him. Zhao Xintong certainly going to ask the referee to clean the white at that time. And let's see what we're going to get now with Zhao Xintong. Don't think he's got any of those reds available there to his name. With, of course, it was a miscue. And, you know, Jiahui was playing for the colour anyway. Zhao Xintong is still a massive favourite there. So consistently being on around 70% there, very much since the start of the vote. Against Jiahui, as I say, I probably did have him as the favourite, but I was very much convinced that he was going to be a bit more of a battle than what we've seen so far, especially from that performance against Gary Wilson yesterday. As Zhao, he's looking to see if he's going to have a red available in towards the left middle. It does remind me of that shot that Jiahui has gone for in the previous frame, off into the left corner, but you know, Zhao has always been really good with his shot selection previously in his career, although it hasn't actually been the longest one so far. But it's a nice little shot there, and certainly the gap was there for the taking. And now a difficult pink in towards the right middle there, off the blue spot. And, he's going to be unlucky with this one. He was already walking there to try and play the red in towards the left corner. The yellow pocket instead, I should say. Instead, he's looking like he's going to have to take the red in towards the yellow corner there, because the blue, which was out of position already there, has gone very close in towards the cue ball there and blocking the trajectory line for the red to be played in towards the yellow pocket. So has to try and accelerate through the cue ball now and get himself lined up for the pink. And what a lovely shot that is, beautifully cued as well. I mean, it was very important for him not to run himself out of position on the colour, but still got the red in perfectly in towards the heart of the pocket. And if it is going to be Mark Selby against Zhao Xintong, this could be an absolute chaos versus control there. And what a battle this is going to be there. Pretty sure one of the first times that I'm going to see, if I'm going to watch that one, Zhao Xintong against Mark Selby. And, yeah, I'll have a look at that one. If, of course, the lineup is going to be confirmed, Anthony McGill and Jiahui will still have something to say about it. But in terms of Jiahui there, it does seem like, you know, his campaign at the International Championship is running into an end there. Has had a little bit of a weird season there, because he was producing brilliant performances previously, but every single time he gets to sort of good opposition there, the likes of John Higgins, the likes of Watchalong, maybe Zhao Xintong here, of course, he just seems to struggle against them. And on the days when he can't find his game, he just seems to, like, he doesn't have a backup plan there. Maybe the same goes for Zhao Xintong, but as I say, when you have that plan A at such a high level there, you're always going to be a massive favour there for you to try and dominate those frames in the way that he's been doing it in the recent couple of months there, especially in the later part of the season last year. Going to put himself into a little bit of a problem zone though, as he can't take the green in towards the middle pocket, but he has to play with power, and therefore makes the shot missable. And he has missed it. Is he going to give anything away there? Doesn't look likely, because he was trying to initiate the contact on the reds from the cue ball, and in the end does look like he's run himself and his opponent out of position here. So now C is just going to play the cue ball away from the pack here and try and maybe get the cue ball in behind the blue or yellow zone. Yeah, it's not a great shot there by Jiahui. And he's just going to leave all of this position now available to Xintong here. And I mean, he can try and go for the red as an attacking option there to his name and roll that one in towards the left corner. Of course, compromised by the fact that he has to breach over a red. Decent effort, but the cue ball's going to be way too close to the pocket and he's going to drop it. So it was a really nice effort there, because the chances of him actually finding a green pocket were very much limited there, especially with so many colours being in the way. But it was a nice little idea there for him. It's just a bit unlucky with the execution. So 4 points given away to Jiahui, and I mean, if he's got this red available in towards the left corner, he can try and go for it. Apart from that, has to try and go for plan B option to his name. And, maybe just give the position away to his opponent. I mean, if he sees like there's nothing on for him for the attacking point of view, you can just place the cue ball there for him and just see what his opponent is going to be able to do. So clearly finding it as some sort of a safety here. So not going to be an attacking shot, but still going to be a safety to be played there for himself, as he plays it in a nice little fashion there. And the cue ball is going to drift and go in behind the gap there. And maybe Zhao is actually able to get through to that red, and you know, has to be asking some questions there over Jiahui's shot placement, because anywhere but there, and you know, Zhao is going to be in trouble. Instead, he can try and go for this red. The cue ball is having a little bit of the magnet there for Zhao Xintong towards the green pocket, but this time the magnet is not going to work. The cue ball is going to stay out on the table. And ultimately, smart shot selection there from Zhao Xintong, because he manages to get the cue ball in the area where he's not going to see any reds there for Jiahui for an attacking fashion. And even if he does manage to see enough of that red to try and roll that in towards the right corner, it's going to be very, very difficult for him to get the cue ball past the pink there. Therefore, has to go for another shot selection, but the cue ball is going to bounce off the jaw of the middle pocket, and therefore, let's see what we've got here available for Zhao Xintong. Is he going to have anything to his name? I mean, with the first look that he's had, probably unlikely there, but very lucky by Jiahui if he has managed to get himself out of danger. I mean, he stays stationary there, so he's still standing there, which is always a sign that he's expecting to get back to the table very quickly right now. And Zhao Xintong just, I mean, he's playing the shot in towards the left middle in a similar fashion where you couldn't really see him getting through to that red. See if he's going to be able to do it once again here. And try and do it in the way that he's going to guarantee him a position on the colour, but ultimately probably has to go for a safety shot there. As I say, last thing that he needs is to give an open chance there to Jiahui to get himself back in this frame. Therefore, just has to mind his time, because Jiahui is going to be more impatient of the two of them, because he's the one trailing. And when you're aggressive players, you always have to go for the opportunities. And I mean, if Zhao just takes his foot off the pedal slightly and allows Jiahui to go for those chances, I think one thing that is guaranteed for you to have is that he's going to make mistakes there. And if you just feed off those mistakes, you're going to be in with a great chance of winning a couple of more frames. There's the first one. Certainly don't think it was the last one, because I mean, there was a little invitation there for Jiahui to go for the red there, but once again there, he's just trying to hammer the red home. And if you're going to miss it, you're always likely to leave a red on with the way that those are currently positioned on the table. Therefore, just having a look there from Zhao's perspective, he's going to be able to roll the red in towards the yellow pocket there. Get himself lined up for a nice little shot there on towards the brown. Let's see if he's going to have anything more available to his name. So, I mean, he could have gone for the one in towards the left corner, but compromised by the fact of the red being in the way of the cue ball, so difficult to bridge over it. And I think the camera was a bit too quick there to take the eye off the pot there. In the end, he is going to get it. And ultimately, yeah, he's on the brown, but he's very straight on this brown. I mean, as long as he gets the cue ball in towards the blue spot, which is currently vacant there, with the blue, green and yellow all being massively out of position there, and very close to the right-hand side of the table, going to be able to have that shot in towards the right corner, and he's played it really, really nicely there, and actually managed to get underneath the blue spot and get himself one more chance now to close off another frame and get himself a 5-1 of a cushion over Jiahui. As it's going to approach the 2-hour mark since the match has started. Certainly not looking like it's going to be one of those really tight matches to the end, as really doesn't necessarily look like that on any of the tables so far in the opening session. Probably could argue that if Jack Lisowski managed to take that frame, which he was on the break there, and make the scoreline 4-2, could be in there with a chance. But that is a bad shot played by Zhao Xintong, and he's going to be unhappy with himself, but ultimately it looks like he's run himself out of position here. 19 points is going to be the cushion. 91 still on the table, and just don't really understand why he had to go for the shot and try and make sure that he got the cue ball in towards the zone of reds. Didn't have to rush him so quickly there. I think he had one more red available there for him. And right now probably has to consider taking the red on anyway in towards the left corner and just pushing the cue ball on towards the bulk area. And hoping that he's going to have himself lined up for the blue. But with the way he's approached the shot, probably just going to go for a safety shot there and send the cue ball in towards the green pocket. The break of 12 points is going to be the end there of Zhao Xintong at the current visit to the table. And ultimately, I don't actually think he's played the shot too well out there, because he's going to have this one available there for Jiahui in towards the left corner. And once again there, just tries to absolutely hammer that one home. And he does seem to be struggling here, Jiahui. Zhao Xintong will be trying to find an opening here to get himself lined up for a nice little win here of this frame. As this red is going to be potable now along the cushion there for him. And just looking to make sure that he's going to get it as soon as possible. Of course, Jiahui inevitably is going to realise that this style of just trying to smash all the reds into the pockets is not going to work out for him. And he's going to go for a more sort of elegant approach. Doesn't seem to be that way for the last couple of frames though, ever since the intermission realistically. The last frame of the first mini session was still very much controlled there. And he was just unlucky to get himself off into the green and make a foul shot. But I mean, Zhao Xintong seems to be struggling here as well, because he's just missed the brown in towards the yellow pocket there. So still the gap of 20 points here. And maybe it's going to be a bit of a squeaky bum time. Just not going to be able to get himself off into that zone of just getting that match won with a scoreline of 6-1. Really straightforward there. Barry Hawkins, by the way, has had his lead cut in half there by Jack Lisowski. And instead of 4-0 there, it is currently 4-2. Still in favour of Hawkins, but just to make sure he stops that momentum of the jackpot. To make sure he ain't going to win the lottery once again. Now Jiahui with another red available in towards the left corner. Plays that one with power, but with control power that time. And it looks like he's going to have all sort of advantage there for him at that time. Because he's going to have himself perfectly placed there on the brown in towards the right middle. And ultimately has got a wide selection of reds available to his name as well. Which I don't think he's going to need a lot more than that. As I say, he's only 19 points behind Zhao Xintong. And therefore can sort of afford to go in towards those colours carefully. Get himself lined up for the positional shots there on the black ball cushion, which is going to be available there for him very soon. Try and bounce off it right now after he takes the red in towards the right corner. And maybe get around the black there and have it placed in towards the right corner pocket as well. Certainly going to be a lot more space there for him to play. But first of all, he tried to go for a red, which is going to be a bit more difficult there for him to play. To make sure that he's going to have all of these reds available to play in towards the right corner. Because they basically are forming a nice little line there that you would have on a practice table. And that's why you need the practice, because one of them is actually going to be put into the real world and in a real match time. Doesn't seem like he's played the shot of the black too well. I think he was trying to have the cue ball lined up for the red, lowest of them all. Instead, he has to play the one which is going to be third highest and get the cue ball onto the top part of the area, which makes the red a bit more difficult there for him, but he still shouldn't be missing that there. I mean, like, you can understand if he runs himself out of position there, but don't miss the pot with that angle. Xintong comes back to the table, and once again there, I mean, that position is nowhere near good enough for you to miss those types of shots from. I mean, first you want to run for the red there, and I mean, when you try to recover, you still should be making that shot in, but he didn't. Now, Xintong, what can he offer to the fans here? I mean, he can offer a really good long pot. In the end, don't think he's going to be on the black though. He's going to have a chance in towards the left middle. But ultimately, I mean, he's won too many shots there for him to take. As I say, you can afford to take it if it's available. But the problem of taking the black and lining yourself up for the colour, lining yourself up for the red, always going to be the tricky part for you. Because, you know, if you miss the black there, he doesn't have to worry about the black, your opponent. You'll have the red available that you've played for. But this shot seems to be absolutely perfect. Didn't even catch the jaws there from such a wide angle. And such a narrow angle, I should say. On towards the left middle. Gets himself lined up perfectly on the red. In towards the right corner. And once again there, has to take the cue ball in towards the bulk area. But, I mean, just like it was in the majority of this frame, just seems to make the more difficult of the shots, and just seems to miss the easier ones there. I mean, this raid wasn't the easiest of all time, but it still wasn't anywhere near hard enough for you actually to miss it that way. And now Jiahui will come back to the table. But ultimately, as he now finds himself 14 points behind, I don't think he's got that luxury of not needing this sort of yellow and green pair, which is going to be in a difficult position there for him. Ultimately, the advantage is the fact that he's still in this frame and probably going to be a slight favourite now, with him being 6 points behind now, with 2 more reds and 3 more blacks still potentially being available to play, which is going to get him 23 points. Therefore, put him around 16 points clear of Xintong going into the last 6 colours, which is going to need the first 2 of them. And so what a surprise, it's actually the 2 most problematic ones there for him. As he now goes 2 points clear. As I say, not really need to sort of take any notice of those 3 reds. They were in just as easy a position as it's ever going to get there for you. Right now, clearly, having himself lined up for the cue ball to be sent onto the top part of the table to make sure he's going to have his job reduced there from really difficult to at least challenging there. Realistically, he has to try and take the blue out of the game first, because that's going to free up the green there for you. And yeah, you can just see that the shot which is missed, which, you know, it was a planting towards the right corner after Xintong has left him a red over the right corner. And yeah, surprised with that short selection, because he's committed to the brown, so has to try and drop the cue ball in behind the yellow here, which, I mean, he's going to be pretty much mission impossible there, with the yellow being pretty much on the cushion. So has to try and tie the yellow out of the cushion there, and he ain't going to work there for him. And back to the safety battle we go. The break of 29 points is going to be good there for him, but it's not going to be good enough there for him to actually win this frame in the current visit to the table. 14 points of a cushion. I mean, barring that green, it ain't going to be a significant points advantage, because you still have 27 points on the table. And it's a decent line there from the cue ball's point of view, but the yellow is going to be very much a traitor there for him. And he's going to stay in the potable position there for Zhao Xintong. Back to the world champion we go. And of course, barring green, it's all about the yellow. But after you pot the yellow, of course, the next colour that comes for you is going to be the green. So you have to make sure that you've got the position on the second cheapest colour. And yeah, he was trying to have a little nudge there for the green. But, you know, him getting the yellow really nicely with a good shot there is still going to pay his dividends if he plays the next shot really well. Because he's got basically a free snooker to line up on Jiahui. And yeah, could have played it better. Could have played it better, to be fair. Because he had to make sure he didn't leave an available option there of using the black ball cushion first. And yeah, hidden hope there. Brilliant double of the cue ball in towards the left corner there, Jiahui. But his snooker we're playing, and it doesn't quite work that way. It is going to be ball in hand there, and 4 foul points to Zhao Xintong, and you can just feel Jiahui is absolutely unraveling here. And it's there for the taking there for Zhao Xintong. Once again, all he has to do now is to get himself a nice little position on the brown. Not going to have it though. He's going to be very, very, very straight on the baulk line, with the cue ball being dead on the baulk line there, with of course brown being on his spot. So, I mean, he can still take it on there, but he just makes the shot to play for the blue a lot more difficult there for him. The brown is in though, so first part of the task is completed. And now needs a massive bounce there off the cue ball, which he did get, to be fair. So probably as much as he could have done in that position. Right now, still a tricky blue there, but all he needs is the pink after it, and he's going to be away into a 5-1 lead. And very nicely taken there for the blue. Now got himself lined up for the pink in towards the yellow pocket for a 5-1 of a gap there to his name. And it is going to be a 5-1 gap to Zhao Xintong. I mean, Jiahui was certainly playing some reckless stuff there, and it looks like he's going to be doing that for one more frame there, because he is certainly looking like it is a question of when, not if, we're going to see Zhao Xintong in the quarterfinal stage. I mean, same can't be said about Barry Hawkins and Jack Lisowski though, because Lisowski has just won 3 frames on the bounce there, and a 4-0 gap for Barry has been reduced to it being 4-3 now. Still in favour of the Hawk, but ultimately it is the jackpot that is coming ever closer to him. Selby still battling away there for the 5th frame with Anthony McGill. And Jotchomp is trying to do a similar sort of thing there with Wu Yize. After having his gap of 4 frames to 0, got down to 4 frames to 1 at that time. And still battling away there with all 3 other tables. And of course, Zhao Xintong seems to be the closest one of the other 3 tables of actually getting over the line there, with him being only 1 frame away from doing that in his battle against Jiahui. And as I say, it was always going to be an interesting match there. I think Jiahui could have offered a bit more there and made the match a bit closer, but on the other hand, it is always nice to see the world champion getting the recognition that he deserves, and certainly getting himself within touching distance there of the quarterfinal stage. Only needs 1 more frame there, and basically around 70 points or so to make sure it is going to be Zhao Xintong as the first quarterfinalist to be confirmed. And looking to face, very likely at this stage, Mark Selby there, with him having a nice little cushion of 3 frames to 1 there, and 33 points over 1 over Anthony McGill out there for a place in the semi-final to play, of course, either one of the players from the pairings of Jotchomp, Wu Yize, Barry Hawkins or Jack Lisowski there. So you can argue that bottom side of the draw is going to be a bit more sort of favourite to win the tournament on paper there, of course. But you've got some of the informed players. You've got the reigning champion here, and Nanjing, with Ding Zhuyi there, still up against Sean Murphy today, which has been the player on the rise recently, winning British Open, getting to the final of the Xi'an Grand Prix. Had a little bit of a quieter campaign there in the Northern Ireland Open, but in the end still was there or thereabouts. Right now it is going to be frame number 7 to get us underway here from Zhao Xintong. Needs a good break off now, and needs a nice little start there for himself. Didn't really get the break off though. Hopefully he's going to have the brown for himself to be in between the cue ball and the red. And ultimately, it's the first shot there from Jiahui since that bit of a reckless approach in the previous frame. Let's see what he's going to have to offer right now. It doesn't seem like there's going to be a brilliant safety there, but he looks to be the one that is going to limit the options for Xintong to actually get himself on the score sheet quite early. And, I mean, he can go for the red here, but A, he can miss it, and B, it's going to be difficult for him to find a way on towards the blue there, which is realistically going to be the only colour that he can actually go for right now, with the black and pink being very much tied up out there. And decent effort, but in the end ain't going to be decent enough there, because he's going to miss the red, catching a bit too much of the front jaw there. You know, it was a good effort in terms of getting the cue ball for the blue, but instead he's going to give a chance away to Jiahui of getting the red in towards the green pocket there and getting himself maybe one more chance there of just stealing one more frame there to Xintong, keeping the match alive, keeping himself in the equation. And, you know, Xintong managed to win 5 frames on the bounce. Jiahui probably won't feel that way, but it certainly feel like sometimes, you know, when you've been on the receiving end of things, you can still try and bounce back there and maybe, not 5, but win 2 or 3 frames on the bounce, and all of a sudden, you're right back in the game. Of course, it's going to be very unlikely against the type of a player that Xintong actually is, especially if Jiahui plays shots like that there. Not guaranteed to get himself on the black, and still commits to it. And, well, right now, there's going to be a bit of a struggle there for him to actually get the cue ball save. Of course, has to call the colour first. And maybe he's going to actually try to do it off the black there. And just send the cue ball in towards the bulk area. Decent shot there, nicely played. But once again there, it's another chance of a break that comes and goes there for Jiahui. And just 7 points scored on this time of asking. Xintong will certainly feel like the game is there for the taking. And maybe after playing a couple of shots there of a safety play, he's going to go for a risky attacking shot of his own. For now, he had to make sure he didn't catch the black there, which was in between the brown and blue at that time. So let's see if Jiahui is going to be able to get through to this red and get that one in. And he's going to get 1 red there. Nearly got 2 in a row there, but ultimately, is he going to be on the collar once again there? Just has to, you know, probably not ask so many questions of his own there, because he cannot cue ball into the red. Obviously got the right shot in with him getting the red in, and in the end looks like he's going to go for a difficult cut on the blue. See those missed, and he's going to miss it again there. So just trying to be a bit too hectic there and not taking too much time on those shots. Maybe just play the approach that Xintong was playing previously and just take a couple of more safety shots there to make sure that you're going to be in a nice little position there to dictate the run of play. Instead, it's Chinese compatriot, which is going to try and take the control and full advantage of this game. As now will attempt to roll the red in towards the right corner, get himself lined up for the top part of the table, and line up for the shot of the blue in towards the right corner pocket, right middle pocket, I should say. And I mean, he can go for the black here, of course, to try and restore it back on his spot. I mean, it wouldn't really be a worst case scenario, but I just think I'd be more concerned about the position of the cue ball there, because he needs it quite low on the table. So maybe just take the blue for a couple of more shots there, and when the better trajectory and the angle on the cue ball is going to actually favour you for that shot, you're going to have a chance there to put the black exactly where he belongs there, and you know, get yourself in your favourite spot, which so far don't think we've seen him miss too many shots from, you know, when he's been in and around the black spot. Maybe he's going to have the pink available as well there to his name, which can go back on the back spot, on the black spot, of course. If the pink spot is not going to be there for the taking, that's going to be up to the referee to decide. Just having a look at this now, but I think it will be restored back on towards the black spot, which is going to boost the chances of Xintong closing off the frame by a significant amount of distance. Right now, it is 99 points on the table, of course, reduced massively with all the missed chances that we had, especially from Jiahui already. A couple of them have been from Xintong as well. But ultimately, Tries to get the pink in towards the left corner. Rolls it in nicely. And clearly trying to play for the plant in towards the left corner, which we've seen a couple of shots earlier. Very much similar to the one that won him the frame on a couple of previous occasions. I think he was to go 4-1 up there. And now to go 13 points clear. Having a good look at this one to see if he's going to have a majority of those reds available there to his name. Doesn't seem to be the case just yet though, so maybe we'll have to hammer the cue ball in towards the reds now to get himself lined up on something. Still very much locked in on the 70% of the vote there. And yeah, not play the shot well. Not play the shot well at all. Going to be 19 points clear, but it's certainly going to be the end of a break now. And just looking to see what he can actually do here. I mean, he's having a look to see maybe he can go for the red along the cushion there. But as I say, the cube is very much alongside the pink spot. And the red that I'm talking about is very much on the black cushion. So just the safety to be played and try and make sure that he's going to keep both of the reds close to the right-hand cushion. Give the turn back to Jiahui, but you'll feel like it's going to go one or the other way very quickly indeed. Because 91 points on the board means that, you know, more and more reds are going to stop being in the way of each other. And therefore, you're going to have an opening come very quickly there, especially with the way this match has been played so far. And a little cross double there attempt from Jiahui. Not going to get him anywhere. And he's going to get him another chance. Just like I said, it was going to be a very quick resolution to the safety battle. Didn't think it was going to be that quick. Well, the first shot being the first error. And I mean, if Zhao can get through to this red in towards the left corner, it certainly is going to be frame over. Don't think he can though. So he has to go for the red that Jiahui has missed, which has gone over the blue line. Still going to be able to cut this one in towards the right middle and gets himself lined up with a little bit of a lucky kiss there, perfectly on the blue. Had sort of 5 colours to choose from. In the end, he's going to be on the blue and has to try and play the shot to make sure he's going to be on the red in towards the right corner. Played it with very little power, but a lot of accuracy at that time. And now 25 points clear. And trying to restore that 6-1 frame there. With similar way that he's managed to win against the opposition there. In the, I think it was Jiahui that he managed to beat in the Shanghai Masters to get himself into the quarterfinal. This time, once again, it's going to be his compatriot from China. But Jiahui this time around. A player that, you know, was going to be the rising star there, but just been way too inconsistent this season. And Zhao does finally seem to find some sort of consistency there for his name. So just has to make sure that the referee's not going to spoil the party there for him. She tries to get the pink very close towards the cue ball. I mean, yeah, this is looking to be very, very touch and go there. Maybe you'll have to go for the red on the opposite corner. Shouldn't be too difficult. The only real challenge is going to be just bridging over the pink. The referee will certainly have a very close look at this one. And, yeah, I think he's played it nicely. Not going to be a foul called at this time. Rolls the red in towards the left corner. Gets himself lined up for the pink. And a straightforward ending to the match. As you probably could see that coming from the last couple of frames with the way they've been played from Jiahui. Pretty much, you know, go hard or go home there for him. But it is looking like it is going to be go home. 67 points on the table and 3 reds that are available there for Xintong is going to be more than enough to make sure that Jiahui is not going to be returning back to the table here. Unless it is going to be just to shake the hands of Xintong and, you know, congratulate him on the well-deserved win. Very much in control. Has some mistakes earlier in the match. And, you know, a couple of them in the late stage as well. But ultimately, Jiahui just made way more of those. And now 46 points clear. So the next red and color combination is going to get him over the match ball line. So the first red is going to disappear in towards the left middle. And the contrasting pink is going to go in towards the right corner there for Xintong. As he's looking to end a commanding performance there and a commanding win there. 6-1 probably doesn't represent the way the match has gone there. It has been really close at the start of it. But ultimately, I think the right player on the day has certainly won there. And Jiahui just has to try and put himself back together. and focus on. Not quite the champion of champions, and of course Riyadh season, he's not going to feature him either. UK Championship is going to be the next milestone there for him. Right now, he certainly is going to be a nice little preparation there for the champion of champions, for Zhao Xintong, which of course is going to feature in both Riyadh season and the champion of champions, as I mentioned. He's going to have the quarter-final stage at the Riyadh season in Saudi Arabia guaranteed there to himself, and has actually found himself on the tougher jaw of the champion of champions. Going to have to go through Mark Cullen in the first round, but ultimately he certainly has managed to book himself in towards the quarter-final stage. A break of 48 points looks like it's going to be enough there for him. Tries to go for a cross double, and in the end he's going to make it. So a couple of more shots to entertain the fans, and maybe just one last time a 50+ break here in this match. And a brilliant performance there from Zhao's point of view. As I say, it's been there when it matters. You know, been punished for some of his mistakes. The one that jumps into mind has to be the pink that he's missed in the second frame. Ultimately going to run himself out of position on this yellow. So the break of 54 points looks like it is going to be enough. Go for a bit of a outstanding shot on there. Right middle, but ultimately it is going to be Zhao Xintong to beat Jiahui in a really dominant win there. 6 frames to 1. And it is now Zhao Xintong marching towards the quarter-final stage. As I say, you're going to have to meet either Mark Selby or Anthony McGill. And if you look at the other tables, Selby's still trying to dominate that frame and get himself a 4-1 cushion. Buiza managed to get 2 frames of Watchalong, and he's now the world number 1 winning by 4 frames to 2 there. Barry Hawkins and Jack Lisowski both battling away there over frame number 8. And it's a massive difference there between Barry taking a 5-3 lead or Lisowski taking it from 4-0 down to 4 frames each there. All to play in the 3 of the other matches, but this time it certainly is going to be the world champion marching in towards the last 8 stage. And let's see if we're going to get him into the semi-final and maybe another final stage. As you know, only Sean Murphy managed to reach the final on the 2 occasions on this season. Let's see if it's going to be the first time lucky there for Zhao Xintong. For now though, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you around for the quarter-final stage tomorrow. Speak to you soon.